So let's start the discussion on language structure, learning, and cognition. What was the point that we were discussing through 4-5 examples last time? The point is, and at least I think the point is, there is evidence available in the structure of language which supports the point that some of the elements of what shapes how we think is available in the structure of language. Okay? Or at least we can see these things. We don't really know whether whether the language that we speak and the structure of that language really shapes our worldview. We are not very sure about that. Okay? Which is one of the parts of Whorfian hypothesis. Okay? But we do see examples where we do not find linguistic explanations, and linguistic explanations of unacceptability. At the same time, we do find some of these things of this sort embedded in the structure of language. And there I gave you 2 examples. One was about use of postposition, which is one of the, postposition is part of closed class category. It's also part of functional domain of the structure of language. And then the use of such a grammatical category to capture such neat and vivid categorization in the language that we speak is remarkable to see by itself. That is, when we use postpositions like ka and its different forms, that is genitive postposition with different forms, then we see it captures inalienable stuff. Inalienable in the sense of human relations. As human relations become as inalienable as our parts, and we use the examples of hands or nose or anything just to make a point that they are really inalienable stuff from us. And in the total conceptualization of speakers of these languages, human relations become inalienable of that type. Okay? And this gets reflected through the use of the postposition ka, ke and ki. Same way, with the clear distinction of another type of postposition, which is ke pas, we see this type of postposition being used for alienable positions. Okay? And then we saw some overlaps of these things on one side. On the other side, we had a detailed discussion on the use of the verb chahiye. We saw that the use of the verb chahiye is relevant in indirect sentences where there is no agreement between subject and the logical subject and the verb. And then we see what we find interesting in those examples is speakers switch to a different type of a structural pattern when they want to say something else. And this happens in such a way that we don't realize, we don't see what we do. But nonetheless, we do that invariably. These are the things that we saw last time. Now, I want some more examples from, and I want you to talk about some of the examples from Tamil, Malayalam, Lucknow Hindi, and Urdu or Hyderabad Hindi, right? Bangla, Santali, right? And whatnot. We don't have to restrict our discussions to these languages alone. We can talk about these things from any language that we make sense of. Let's start with this, and then we'll see where we reach and how far we reach with this discussion. Who wants to talk about examples? You can talk from there. You can come here and talk, whichever way you feel comfortable. And if you understand the examples that I have discussed with you, and if you understand what you have read, then examples should be clear to you. Right? Like I said in the beginning, the examples that I have given you are the examples that I use to make a point that Whorfian hypothesis is hard to dismiss. The examples of the examples of the study of a structure from American Indian languages have been dismissed to a great extent by a lot of people from various different perspectives in cognition, other branches of social science, anthropology. Lot of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has gone through a lot of criticism. My effort is not to show you that those criticisms are not relevant. That's not what these examples are doing. But definitely what I find through these examples is it's hard to dismiss Sapir and Whorf's claim about at least linguistic determinism. So let us see what you think about them and the examples that you can give in support or against this. Am I making sense? Yes? Then let's who has a ready example? Hindi or Malayalam? You were thinking about food. Okay.
So like a lot of times when like I hear these South Indian dishes, like when they say appam or like I don't know. So I cannot imagine what kind of food it is because I have no access to it or I've never been exposed to it. So I do not know what it is made of. I do not know how it looks like. So I thought that was a very distinct.
You were saying that the word appam is used. You don't know what it is. Right?
Yeah.
What does that show?
That it's so I was thinking about it in the sense how so in the paper when it talks about language tells you about the identity, about the place you belong to and everything. So like a person who is using that word, it would show where the place they come from or like what culture they belong to. So like since I am not a part of that culture, I wouldn't know what is appam. And similarly, that's
do you remember the cuttle thing we had spoken about? We spoke about cuttle being the jackfruit example wherein the South Indian and the North Indian cognition of the same food item is completely different. They think of it as a vegetable and we know of it as a fruit. I think that was...
That is correct, but so it's the same as appam?
No, it's
No,
not
that's
same as
not-
appam. This is a different definition that we have in mind. That would be like relativity,
Yeah.
linguistic relativity.
what she's talking about is just culture identity through language.
Because these types of food do not exist.
In our
They
language.
don't mean anything.
Yeah. Like I would see if I know what that dish is, maybe there is a similar dish that I have in my language that we call something else.
Okay, what do you call dosa from your culture? If you are
No,
approximate
no,
word.
no.
Okay, now you know what
Uttapam na?
Chilla, chilla,
Chilla, chilla. Chilla.
Welcome to that. I don't find that thing, but that is
No, yeah, they say it in Urdu.
wait, let's first understand. Now you know what, do you find name of an approximate dish which you find from your culture?
Yeah.
Chilla.
Chilla.
It's basically a Gujarati food which is very prevalent in North India also. This is like normal batter, like, which you normally use even when there is fast food.
No, but also like uttapam. Like
It's like
we also make
See,
uttapam in the
Uttapam is
north.
still
But we
a
make
South
it from
Indian
basil.
thing.
Yeah, but we make it from this.
Instead of
But it's a
rice.
similar
The
dish.
chila is basically in Urdu. I mean, whatever. At home they call it chila, and it's dosa only, but they call dosa chila also.
No, for us, it's normally a basic thing because we don't eat rice flour.
People use rice flour here.
No, it's a regular dosa made at home, but they also refer to it as chila.
So you see the continuum now.
Yeah.
But likewise, this word chilla, right? Chilla. Would that make any sense to you? No. Do you think that this is something to eat? It sounds like slang. It sounds like slang. Okay, we will come back to this. More examples.
So I had this issue wherein I don't know if this applies to this, but when I was reading the hypothesis, it was talking about how human thoughts and actions relate to the language the individual uses. And in Malayalam, marriage is basically like in English we say they tied the knot, but in Malayalam it's literally he tied her or she tied her. No, it's like she tied him. That's the literal meaning if you take out from the Malayalam statement. That
The Malayalam word for marriage is
get
she tied him.
yeah, tied, yeah. I had an issue with it when I read that the human thoughts relate to the language we use and how this relates to it. So it was just a thought I had when I read it.
Tying knot.
No, we don't say not. It's just tying.
Tying.
Yeah.
We use that Malayalam.
Aval avane ketti, which is she, him, tied.
She died in.
I want 2 sentences from you in Malayalam. She got married. How do you say that in Malayalam?
No, yeah, for that it's like, yeah, she got married, but did she get married to him is like, yeah, she
So did she get married to him?
is like
In
she tied
Malayalam,
him.
Did she tie him?
Yeah.
Example to me. I still want to understand for clarity one more time. So you were saying when we want to say in Malayalam, did she get married? The Malayalam sentence or the phrase will be
Avale
did she
kettiyo.
get tied or did she tie someone?
Did she get married? You would ask, avale kettiyo, which means, did she tie?
Like, yeah. Is her tying over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's get more examples of different types. Things that come to your mind.
So in Bengali we call it Ramera Char Bhai. So it's like, Ram has 4 brothers, But when we say it Bengali, we say it's like the plural is on the this proper noun Ram. So the Ramera is the plural form of Ram. So instead of saying that Ram has 4 brothers, we say Ramera Char Bhai. It's like as if Rams are like 4 brothers. Like so in English, if you say the Ram has 4 brothers, okay. And if I say it in Bengali, then it will be something like Ramera Panch Bhai. That means Rams are 5 brothers. If I just literally translate it, okay. So
Rams are just Ram's 5 brothers. If you have to say Ram's laptop or Ram's chair, how would you
okay.
say? Or Ram's many chairs, how would you say?
No, Ramera, here this verb is like, is not there present, like, but it's there, no? Ra-
It's not there. It's you can't see it on surface.
it's not on the surface, but Ramera Hoy, like,
So it's Ram plural and then 5 brothers. That Ram.
He asked you a question. How do you say Ram's laptop?
Ramer. It's not.
Ramer laptop.
Okay. Now if you have to say Ram possesses 5 or 6 things, whatever. So how would you say that?
Ram possesses.
Ram has 5 houses.
Then Ramer, not
Ramer.
Ramer, not Ramera.
Okay, so is it the case that Ra comes only with the animate things? Okay, Ram's 5 dogs.
Ramer, again.
Ramer.
Okay, so what is that? Is that some kind
Yeah,
of...
so basically I think only for relations you end up using Ra, and for
Yes.
everything else which is a possession you end up saying A.
Genitive Ramer. Okay. So these are two, they may not be couple, they may not be a verb, they sound like different type of possessive pronoun.
Yeah.
So, in Malayalam, in my place, Malappuram, we say, or I think in general in Kerala we use chadi for jumping. Chadi means jumped. Chaduga means to jump, yeah. But in like places like Kannur, which is just 4 hours away, or even in Malappuram itself, 2 hours away, they use chadi for throwing. It's like same word but totally different meaning.
I think there might be more than one word where Malappuram and Kannur are like neighboring districts, but the language is so totally different. There are jokes about it. Ende.
Yeah. We use ende for my and ande for yours, and they use it inversely.
Meaning what?
For instance, if I say ende bearer, first I ande bearer, that would be Marwa. But if person from Kannur says, that would be their own name.
That's like one language itself, but dialect.
You have seen the example.
So in Kannada, in most in Kannada and most parts of Karnataka, which is North Karnataka and South Karnataka, the word kugu means to scream. Scream or like cry out loud. It's about screaming. But in Mangalore, just this one place, so in Mangalore the same word kugu is used to say to cry. So this is funny because my mom is she's a counselor, so we shifted to Mangalore, and when she was counseling patients, a lot of them would come to her when they are depressed and they would tell her that I feel like crying. But she would always think they feel like screaming. So she used to be like, is there something that angers you? Why do you feel like screaming? And for a long time, like she kept assuming like, I know they're depressed, but why are they also showing symptoms of anger? And so that I realized is a difference between Mangalore and the rest of Karnataka.
See, at one point we made a point in this paper that whether you support it or those who have found evidence to disprove it,
You cannot deny it.
you can deny it. Okay? And that's the strength of what we have hypothesis, which relates
encapsulates language and culture in this particular way, tidying, not tying of that type, tidying structure of language. And that's how people understand each other also gets affected.
I just wanted to say something regarding politeness. So politeness, this thing you can see also in like the when you use the language. So when I was in Gujarat, so it was like if something like we will say in Bengali like আপনি ওখানে যেতে পারতেন like ওখানে খুব মানে like it's like the place was really nice, you could visit there. So or some occasion is there but you didn't attend, so the other person can say okay you should that was a nice place, you could have visited. So that's a Bengali one. But in Gujarati what they say is आपको वहाँ the Hindi translation will be the आपको वहाँ जाना चाहिए था ना. So that is like you should have gone there. So it's kind of a rude for us, but that's actually a kind of a that is the polite form for them. So so I think that this politeness, that cultural difference is also there in the when you see the structure. So that is what I thought that that cultural differences will be there.
आपको वहाँ जाना चाहिए था ना?
हाँ, so that is kind of considered that is actually polite for them. But we being like from in Bengali we do not say it in polite form. So
in Hindi also it will be considered very polite.
yes, no, I'm saying that the Gujarati translation will be something like Hindi, but the Gujarati what
Sentence is polite.
polite sentence. I do not so that sentence if you translate it in Hindi, it will be considered as impolite. Like so we felt sometimes like it was really rude for people to say like that, but it's actually the polite thing that they are saying us. So I think that cultural differences that so that's there.
Sir, I had like few examples. The first one is the word macha. Macha is actually brother-in-law, but in today's sense, if you go outside, if you say macha, it means any guy friend can become a macha simply because they won't pick up the girl that you want. They won't try for the girl that you're trying for. They'll help you.
Is that the intended meaning?
That's so if I tell somebody macha, it instantly implies that I'm already close to him because of that particular meaning. So macha basically brother-in-law means that girl's brother won't try to woo that girl. So in that sense, if I say macha, instantly he's my friend, he's helping my ambitions. That's one. Then in terms of alcohol, sir,
That is how this word has
come to be used now. Even yes, sir.
generic use now.
In generic use. This is actually the explanation. Yes, sir. But the thing is, not everybody knows what the origin is. They just say macha, as in friend, macha.
That is even more important.
Yeah.
Without knowing. Because that's what we are discussing all the time.
Yes.
That the linguistic performance is all about the entire use, which we know as linguistic performance, is all about not knowing what we know. Sorry, not explicitly knowing what we already know and knowing. So that's even more important. That happens.
The same thing is there in Malayalam also. Like we use the word for brother-in-law, which is aliya, to refer to your friend also, like guy friend. It's there in movies, everywhere. Like you hear it in colleges, schools, everywhere. People referring to their friends as aliya.
Aliya is equivalent to
Macha. Yeah.
It's the same phenomenon.
Yeah, it's the same phenomenon. Yeah.
What is the point? You were saying that those who do not speak Tamil and Malayalam would not use this word in the same sense as what
There
you
it's like a
Brother,
brotherhood and
yeah.
affection
Yes, sir.
and everything, whereas our understanding of
Yes,
it
sir.
is like it's a derogatory term.
Yeah.
No, not just for this, for other relations. Mama means what?
Maman is uncle for us, but
Tamil also, no, it actually means uncle only, sir. Mama means uncle, but in slang, if I say mama, So usually these, if you go to villages, these people would refer to themselves as mama when they're trying to win over a girl. So they'll say win over a girl or something. So they're basically trying to say you will marry me in that one word. So if I tell a girl mama idu pandra, that means I will do it for you because I'm going to marry you.
What is
I have no idea. So if like there's a particular girl and I tell her, let's say she wants something and I say mama vaangi tara, which means I will buy it, but I'm referring to myself as mama. That means yeah, basically. So I'm saying I'll get it, I'll do it for you, but it is understood that you're my bride in the future. Yeah, that's also there.
I think it must have come from that, right?
Yeah, it comes from that side.
So, marrying mama is a normal thing, therefore it came into the language.
I don't know if it's a normal thing, but it happens. So this.
Normal meaning, that's what
Yeah,
I mean, it happens.
it happens. Yes.
Therefore, this came as cognition.
Yes, sir. But mama is not used in cities and all, only in villages and
They
those
should
things.
use the word mama very carefully. How about other words from Malayalam?
There is no concept of Maracharkan in English. Maracharkan, it's like uncles.
Cousin.
Cousin, but could be a cousin, but it's basically a cousin. It's really a friend. So it's like,
What is the word? First tell the word.
Moracharkan. Moracharkan or Morapenna. Like you're supposed to marry them later.
It's from inside the family, but not like very inside the family. It's a yeah.
Close but not too close.
Yeah.
So
But you know from the beginning that you are betrothed to him or her.
the concept of betrothal, it's not there.
Like it's not child marriage, but it's decided from childhood or something.
Arranged marriage.
No. It's like some families.
The use of this phrase, it's automatically means what she said.
Betrothed, yeah.
Yeah, betrothed. It's not slang, it's just a word.
But don't we use maman for the same thing? Sometimes? No? No, for the same
For
thing.
everyone, like basically every guy on the street has a mom.
When they're betrothed to you? No, definitely not. No? You really don't?
ഗൾഫിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണെന്ന് എനിക്കറിയാം അത് സിനിമയാണ്
Or not, like say when you say it's not available in English, right? In a lot of Indian families, the very fact that there is a system of hierarchy within the family and there's usually a joint family around gives us words which we don't find in English. Like in English, you would call all your dads or mums, brothers and sisters, uncle and aunt. But here you have a hierarchy. You say Tau, Fufa, Bua, and Masi, Chacha, like Chacha, Tau, and Mama and Mausa.
Other part about English is one of the criticism of work in hypothesis. If what Speed and what doing through study of American Indian languages, if that is how things work, then we should not be able to understand
A lot of things.
in the other language. But I want your opinion on this, and therefore I am allowing this discussion on Russian terms. And these are not merely Russian terms. They require a very different kind of understanding. And you understand these things only when you grow up with them. Okay. Otherwise, someone who is not a Tamil speaking girl, you keep telling her mama, she won't understand nothing about what you mean about her. Actually, you need to be grown up in that system to understand these nuances.
that case, the criticism of Portian hypothesis is or can be dismissed completely or partly. You really don't understand what's going on if you because you don't have these terms in your language, that the structure of your language or the structure of your cognitive development, then you really don't understand these things.
True.
Right? So once again, what I am saying is, see, let's take a weaker example. Some languages have fewer color terms, and some languages have more color terms for different shapes also. The argument is, it's not, we can't really claim that speakers of the language which has got fewer color terms can see world only with those color terms. Those who have fewer color terms can also understand different shades, of course, without the specific terms. That's the criticism. But this criticism on the basis of these examples can also be set aside, that it's not as simple as color terms or different words for eyes. It's way deeper than that, where you really do not understand. I mean, okay, use of the word uncle for mama and chacha both can be explained, but that's all about it. Beyond that, there is a term for Masi's daughter or Masi's brother, and if you don't have them in other languages, you can only explain it to some extent. And definitely not these examples of Malayalam and Tamil that we were discussing. Impossible, or the example that you gave. See, but what that example means, tell me if I understand correct, it's kind of an understood engagement, which and does this have to materialize finally, or it some kind of engagement? Malayalam word that you used, marriage one. My question is, the word that you used for Malayalam, the thing is, it's understood in the relationship that this is the person you are going to marry. No. The second one that you used. It's understood, and it's an engagement. It's not child marriage, but it's an engagement. So look at the term. There is a term in the language for kind of understood engagement, right? Does it have to finally materialize, or there is no?
The guy doesn't have a job, then it's changed.
Oh my God. So it's as transient as a job?
Why are you surprised? Isn't that always the case?
No. I'm talking about the term. Okay. Hold on. So hold on. Let me come in, and then you can talk about more examples. Let me summarize this much. So what I get, and what I want you to 1 minute. Let me summarize this thing, and then you can talk about it. Okay? You read those 10 pages that I have sent you, right? Through those 10 pages, you understand two different parts of Worfian hypothesis. Okay, number one. You also got a chance to look at how Worfian hypothesis has been criticized, right? That they really don't, they are okay. We don't deny it. There are relationships between language and culture. We do understand language embedded in cultural context, fine. But it's not really that. The examples that we are discussing are or can be taken as critique of those criticism. That's not true. That the stronger, the weaker version of Worfian hypothesis does not hold. In fact, they do. It does. And you can have breakdown in communication of that the Kannada example that you gave about, what was that, about being screaming and about screaming, and the examples of these relation terms in particularly Malayalam and Tamil that we are talking about with specific cultural connotations are impossible for people to get. They are not simply use of uncle in English and so many terms for uncles in South Asian languages or other languages. They are not as simple as that. So this is what we take away from this part of the discussion. Now, do we have more examples, or we can move to something else?
So I was reading about language and smell. So there is this researcher Asifa Majid. She has worked on two tribes in Thailand and Malaysia. Jawai and Manikai. So they have a vocabulary for smells which is very much different from English. So until then, everybody used to think that, whole academy used to think that we don't have much of an olfactory language. So these tribes have a vocabulary for smells which has about 13 to 20 words describing smells, referring to smells which is not source dependent. When we are thinking of smell, we say the smell of soil or smell of ice cream, whatever. They have the smell as it is without being dependent on any particular source. So I was thinking, is it because, so they did surveys between English speakers and the other. So English speakers can only identify smell in relation with an object. So how does it, I was trying to think it of in context of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Is it because our olfactory cognition is different, or their olfactory cognition is different, or because, I wanted to discuss this. Yeah.
So, doesn't that kind of goes along with what you said in the paper about Native American language versus flash occurred and the light flash and stuff like that? That's right.
I don't know.
That's not spider, that's fine. I don't think that's similar. I think this is something that, personally, I really can't imagine what is the smell that I can't smell from a certain thing.
Yeah.
So I think that this is one of the only examples we've brought up which actually limits our experience. Everything else we could always relate to, saying it's just a word for something else. But this one seems like I can't imagine smelling something and not knowing where the smell is from.
But like in Hindi, we have like a sound.
Sound खुशबू.
But you're not using those.
Yeah.
Isn't it like that? Like
We have
they
limited
don't-
words maybe.
Yeah, like you don't use the source in the language, but they know the source.
No, they will. So if they know a smell, if they're telling the name of a smell, that smell, many different objects will have that smell. Totally different
Yeah,
objects.
but they will know what the object is, right? But they're not
They
using
don't
the language.
really think about the object when they say the name
Yeah,
of the
when they say
smell.
it in the language, they don't.
But you can't, even that smell is there in Malayalam also. You mean the smell of the rain, when it rains,
Yeah.
right? That one, right? But you can associate that smell with only that thing, right? They have a smell, they have a vocabulary of smells which is not attached to object as such.
See, there are languages that I don't remember if I have given you this example from Tibetan where one language that I don't remember, the name of the language is Ma. It has 20 different words for cut. Cut meaning kill. 20 different words for killing. And in short, what I can tell you is by the time you reach the 20th type of killing, you can faint. It's all different kinds of killing. Killing at once, killing slowly, killing very slowly. I can give you, first of all, I don't remember all of them. And if I find it out, then it's very tough to describe them. What's the connection with this example and this one?
I can tell the difference that this is attached with a sensory organ and that is attached with the cultural life. And the tribes I mentioned, they are living in forest. So I think even that like if you go to a coastal region, they will have totally lot of different words for sand or like
In this
yeah.
context of the discussion about language and culture, I will take it in the following way. And I will connect it with some another point that I have been working on this and I want you to understand this. You remember, there are two parts of language that we have been discussing. One is I language and the other is E language. E language is largely about the use of language. And in many discussions, it appears that the use of language depends on our experience later. Okay? This part is problematic in the sense that use of language and what we refer to by I language, they go side by side. I am not trying to say that the way a child develops phonetic system and the syntax of language at the age of 4, at the same time a child develops these things as well. That's not the claim. Okay? But at some point in development, these things goes hand in hand with the acquisition process. If they don't, then you don't get these things at all. Okay? The discussion about the relation terms and the different words for different types of smell, different words for different types of killing, and at the same point we can include different types of words for ice or snow that exist in some community. As you can see, we are talking about overlaps and relationship between language and culture. The point is, what gets determined through culture, what gets determined through our upbringing becomes part of the acquisition process as well. And if they don't, then as a learner of that language later, we don't get these parts at all. We can still learn the structure. We can use the structure that I want dosa or I want appam, or we can use few sentences in the language. We can also probably carry on some conversations, but we will never understand the nuances that we are discussing if you did not grow up as a Tamil speaker or as a Malayalam speaker or Bangla speaker, or for that matter a speaker of any other language. Okay? Therefore, the entire discussion on Worfian claims and this discussion on language and culture is heavily tied with language and learning and language and cognition. Of course, they are not as simple as we are trying to put them together, but definitely more I discuss these issues with examples, the more I am convinced that the distinction between, from the perspective of acquisition, the distinction between E language and I language is really blurred, particularly in the domain of learning. Making sense? Yes? No? The last part didn't make sense? See, most of the examples, my point is, if I want to learn Tamil later, or if I want to learn Malayalam later, I can learn the meaning of mama. Okay? I can also learn the meaning of, the other word was macha. And if I try little harder, I can also try to understand one or two connotations of these things. But these are just few things we are discussing about this language. Nuanced and culturally grounded stuff like these is tough to learn little later. That is, if I want to learn a language as a second language, I want to learn language at a later stage in my life. Not all these things are possible to learn along with the structure of language. And those who grow up with these languages, they learn these things too, just like linguistic structure develops miraculously, they develop these things too without putting in efforts. Is the point that I am trying to drive at. So, only linguistic structure develops, that is the relationship between constituents of language and sentence develops miraculously, and that should be separated from all other parts of social development or development, and the process of learning can be separated is not viable. They go together. Somebody wants to say something?
Adopted by Australian parents. So the story goes such that, like, even when he's lost and found in Bengal and he can't speak the language, still in Hindi he's developed the understanding enough to explain that, you know, I'm lost and I'm from here and I have a mom, I have a brother, but I got lost and I got onto this train and everything. So he understands the entire concept. But then once he gets adopted, I think this is where we have to, I personally think critical period hypothesis also kind of overlaps with this hypothesis, wherein he learns English and then he forgets about his history. So only when he is about 20 or 22 does he see some elements that remind him of what had happened, and then he goes back to remember what really happened. And I was just wondering if the language shift actually altered his cognition, because it wasn't as if he was too young to remember the story. Because he was explaining the story to a lot of people in the at the beginning, but once he shifts to, I think he was around 8.
In the movie, the story.
8ish.
It was a movie.
It's based on a true story.
What is the movie? No, I mean, it's based on the true story with a heavy element of fiction.
Yeah, obviously, but
That won't happen. The last question, answer to your question based on this story, what is the question? Does language shift
yeah.
alter cognition?
Yeah. No, because I would assume that, you know, I would still remember what happened to me despite the language shift, but here they.
It's fiction.
Okay.
And to say more about that, I need to see the movie and need to read the book that it is based on. But from your description, the structure of the new language that this person learns does not have effects on what this movie or book claims to have. Clearly, there should be then there will be no criticism. If imagine if that was supposed to be true, then no criticism exists. Okay, that won't work. Okay. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Then talk.
So, I don't know if it was the
What is the name of that movie, by the way, again? Lion.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess the book autobiography.
Autobiography. What is the name of the book?
I don't know the name of the book, but the guy himself.
We'll find it out, but do you know the name of the book? That's all right. Okay, talk about the movie.
in the movie, I think it was more like, so basically he goes through a lot of traumatizing experiences in Calcutta, and also he cannot communicate with anyone because he speaks Hindi.
anybody can go through that experience in Kolkata. But that's besides the point. Okay.
Yeah, and all of that, after which he suddenly gets picked up by this Australian couple and his whole world shifts, you know. So until he reaches college and, you know, this one time he sees jalebis and until then he's not had the situation to, you know, like stop and think about that. And then
Think about what? Jalebi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
it's related to a memory he had with his elder brother.
Okay.
And he was lost when he was with his elder brother at the railway station. So that's when he clicks back to, but I think it was more about getting the opportunity to reflect upon these vague memories you have from your childhood than about his language reflecting who he was. Yeah, it was more like that.
So her question is basically, is this tied with language also? Which does not appear to be the case right at this point. What it does to memory and other things is probably in the domain of other fields to discuss.
Trauma can have all kinds of effects on you.
Right.
But I'm not sure whether what Sabha said or the way Sabha is reading that movie holds. Yeah. So, or if the account has been given by the author really holds. Simply because, you know, if you look at how people who learn languages systematically, meaning they're not multilingual right from the birth, but what they do is they would learn a language during the first 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then start learning English, say at 10 or 12 or 15, etc., etc. But because of some shift in either the geographical location or some other environment, it turns out that the second language becomes the dominant language for this person. So it is possible that if somebody started with Tamil or Malayalam or Hindi as the first language, ended up becoming a naturalized citizen in the US or the UK, and continues to speak and listen to English only. There is no more Hindi, no more Tamil, no more Malayalam. So you would find that this person naturally ends up thinking in terms of the idiom of the English people. So for Bahti Ganga mein haath dhona is no longer, you know, Bahti Ganga mein haath dhona. It's more like to make hay while the sun shines. Now what do? Do you say that the cognitive system has changed? Do you say that the language has had an impact on this? No. It is what is immediately around or surrounding the person and the input, which basically makes it more natural for the person to sort of relate to. And if you focus on idioms, I think this point becomes clearer, that it is possible for people to start using different idiomatic ways of saying things, which in their own language would be completely different, but not that, you know, the whole cognition changes, etc. No, I don't think so. I think I'll have to read that book. Interesting. Thank you. Lion, right?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Nice. The book is called A Long Way Home.
A Long Way Home. Right? All right. Okay. We are not lost yet, okay? We are not lost yet in the discussion. Did you want to say?
I just wanted to add one word, okay, so just to highlight the cultural context of language and the words. So the words like shokal, that means morning. But if I say that shokal shuye podo, that means you sleep early. That means like you were saying it in the night. Okay, it's nothing to do with morning at all. So if you do not know these things, then like.
Okay. What would be an Hindi example of that? Did you hear him?
I mean, sleep early.
Sakal. Hindi example of that? I have a feeling that I know this example in Hindi as well.
Shokal means morning, But when I say shakal shakal shue poro, I mean to sleep early. So it's basically you say it in the night.
You are saying in the night, sleep in the morning.
No, you sleep early.
Early.
You
I
guys
have-
share
I-
different dialects.
Yeah, because I have never heard of this usage in like the area.
That is fine. But what are you saying?
Yeah, it's
But
like
It's making sense. Where are you from?
North Bengal.
That which is where?
No. It's called I don't know like whether
Tell me the name of the place.
Balurghat. Balurghat.
Balu. Okay. That sounds.
I'm from western side of Bengal.
Which is what the name of the place? Asansol. So it's possible, but this kind of example you haven't
I
heard.
haven't heard.
No. This comes to my mind. Savere. Savere in Hindi. Savere so jao. That doesn't mean sleep in the morning. That means sleep early. Sleep jaldi. The word it's not the direct meaning jaldi, but savere so jao means sleep early instead of 10. Sleep at whenever. I mean whatever is jaldi.
I don't do that.
You don't know savere? You have never heard this thing savere?
You would not do that. It's possible.
But savere so. Yeah, savere so jao. Correct. So this makes sense. Okay.
To say go sleep early, to say there to Kalatram.
Correct.
Means like go to bed. Kalat is like day, so the morning.
Correct.
But you use that to go to sleep early.
That's exactly what he is talking about. Correct.
Malayalam and Bangla.
Look at this. And that way Hindi too.
But it can be used at any time. Like
So you
In your case, it has to be.
no. It can be used at any point in time in day. Like shakal means like early. Like whenever you do at particular time.
but does it have to be reduplicated in Bangla?
Excuse me, sir.
You have to say sakale sakal.
Okay.
Or you can also say sakal soja.
No, you have to repeat it.
Repeat it.
So basically, that reduplicated term only means early.
But in Hindi it does not have to be repeated. How about Malayalam? Not repeated. Okay. All right. Few more examples. Santali.
I mean, that is like early, so I don't know.
What?
I can't think of anything.
You can think of. That's fine. It's hard to think. This is also part of nativity of language and development. It's hard to think about things in your own language. That is because you grow up with this. You don't learn them, right? That is you. When someone says "Behti Ganga mein haath dhona," you haven't learned this thing by putting in efforts. Okay. Therefore, it is hard to come up with these metaphorical expressions and things which has deeper cultural connotations, and languages reflect them. That's what we were talking about. So with this thing, we close it at a note where we arrived at that the two parts of Whorfian hypothesis. In the two parts of Whorfian hypothesis, the criticism from the study of language from social perspective, study of language from cognitive perspectives, and study of language from anthropological perspectives, the three types of criticism that we have seen so far, that we discussed in this short write-up, they hold, but they don't dismiss. And you can find examples from many languages rooted in the structure of language and the understanding of language by the speakers of the language, which can only substantiate and not dismiss this. And it has impact on learning of language.